days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. I want to get a deeper dive into the 49ers schedule, because now that we've had time to look at it, evaluate, digest, look at the rest of the NFL schedule, there's some takeaways. There's some things that we can pull from this schedule that give us an idea of what the 49ers are facing. And of course, the big news was we know where all 17 games are going to be played, when they are going to be played, who they are playing in those games, how many of them are prime time, what time they're going to be, and everyone can start planning their schedule for the NFL season, because everyone kind of plans around it. If you're a 49er fan, if you're an NFL fan, you're trying to figure out the days that you can be available and the days that you're just not, because you have to watch 49ers football. And so it's always a fun day. And I think it goes a long way in determining how things are going to happen. Last year, when we looked at the 49ers roster, one thing we noticed right away was it was a good roster, but it was going to be put to the test when you saw the schedule and how things were going to go down when you got into the end of November, early December. When you had tough trips during the season, it was going to make it very hard for the 49ers. You were going to deal with weather concerns. You were going to deal with teams like the Buffalo Bills. And so the schedule does go a long way in dictating how the season's going to go. How much rest are you going to have? How many opportunities are you going to have to play teams that you feel favorable matchups are going your way? So there's a lot that you can pull from the schedule. And so what I did is I've been scouring. I looked at the schedule. I made some evaluations of my own, but I also went out. I looked around. I found in content from other guys as well. And so what I did was just compile it all. And we've got it all here. Some things that the 49ers are going to have in their favor. Maybe a couple of things that they don't. But these are going to be the biggest takeaways from the San Francisco 49ers schedule for 2025. And we're building towards, what this is going to look like. How many of these games can the 49ers win? That's a question for another day. But what it is right now is we're going to put us on the right track and right path for that. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating if you feel compelled to do so. Lots of people listening on audio platforms right now. It is continuing to grow. I really appreciate all of you that listen on Apple or Spotify or Google Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. So thank you so much. And of course, if you are going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into the NBA and NHL playoffs. And Bet Online has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With a large selection of odds on everything from MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, Bet Online remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the Bet Online Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Bet Online, the game starts here. So the first thing we know, and this is something that's been talked about for a little while, so this is not going to be a surprise to most, but the San Francisco 49ers have the easiest strength of schedule of any team in the NFL. So when you finish last in your division, you have an opportunity to play a last place schedule the next season. The 49ers over the last several years have been playing first place schedules. And so it's been a little bit more difficult. Last year was very difficult for the 49ers. And when they didn't have a complete team and they were suffering injuries, well, that just made it difficult when you played some of those really good teams. The Vikings, the Eagles, the Buffalo Bills, like all those things made it more difficult for the 49ers to hold on. And that's why when push came to shove, they were a 6-11 football team, because they weren't as good as they had been in the past, but still had to play that tough schedule that included some of the best first and second place teams in each division. That doesn't happen this year. In fact, the 49ers are playing the easiest strength of schedule for any team since 2015. So 10 years ago was the last time a team played this easy of a schedule. Now, of course, like with all things, this is going easiest schedule off what happened last year. Every team has been looking to improve. Every team has improved their roster in some way, shape, or form. So right now, it's just on paper. These things are going to get proved on the field. And how many times have we seen teams that struggled the year before that end up being a big time team the next year? All you have to do is look at the 49ers in 2018. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down for injury. The 49ers struggle throughout the season. They pick number 2 overall. They take Nick Bosa. And then in 2019, they go from being a non-playoff team to going all the way to the Super Bowl. So it does happen. And part of that is, hey, one of the most important positions is quarterback. 49ers didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo in 2018. They did in 2019. It worked out. You fast forward now, 49ers have a good quarterback in Brock Purdy. In fact, a great quarterback in Brock Purdy. So that's something to remember. So easiest schedule is going to be huge for the 49ers. They've got to make sure they capitalize on playing some of the last place teams from other divisions and hoping that you're a lot better. Last year was a little bit of an anomaly for the 49ers. They had some key injuries. Can they turn it around? That's going to be one of the key. None of the 49ers' final 7 games are against 2024 playoff teams. So their final 7 teams that they play didn't make the playoffs last year. That's the Arizona Cardinals, the Carolina Panthers, the Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans, the Indianapolis Colts, Chicago Bears, and the Seattle Seahawks. None of those teams were in the playoffs last year, so the 49ers have a really nice stretch at the end of the year. Now, do I believe that the Arizona Cardinals are going to be improved? I do. Do I know what Carolina is going to be? I have no clue. Cleveland, no clue. Quarterback situation, crazy. Tennessee will be a little bit better. They got Cam Ward. They've got a lot of work to do. Colts, they might be a fringe playoff team. We'll see what happens. Quarterbacks got to get figured out there. Is it going to be Daniel Jones? Is it going to be Richardson? Who's it going to be? I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to have to be figured out when you're talking about the Indianapolis Colts. Then you've got the Chicago Bears. I expect they'll probably be in the hunt, playing in a really tough division up there in the NFC North. And then Seattle Seahawks, we'll see. So good news for the 49ers when it comes to the last 7 games. But how about this? They only play 4 games this season against playoff teams last year. So that is what the 49ers schedule looks like. They just don't really have, teams that made the playoffs last year that they're going to have to play this season. Those teams, the Los Angeles Rams, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Houston Texans. Those are all teams that made the playoffs last season that they're going to have to play. And they play the Rams twice. So when you're looking at the strength of schedule, that's part of the reason that everyone is feeling comfortable about the 49ers' opportunity to not just win, right? It's funny because you see some of the things that get said, by the national media, and they pay no mind to what's coming ahead, right? Colin Cowherd said he didn't expect the 49ers to make the playoffs. In fact, he didn't think they were going to get out of the basement in the NFC West. How did he not know what teams they were going to be playing coming up? Because now he's saying that they are going to win for sure 11 or 12 games. And if, Brock Purdy better win 13 or 14 to be considered in the same, category with Patrick Mahomes and others, because they would win those many games. This is just the crazy talk, right? You got to take everything into consideration. That's why you don't make those claims without knowing who the opponents are going to be. And the 49ers are getting a very favorable schedule. It worked out that the 49ers are playing a 4th place schedule, but also the rotation of divisions in which they're playing worked out because they are playing the AFC South. And the AFC South, yes, you're going to play the Houston Texans, but with that, you also are going to play the Indianapolis Colts. You're going to play the Tennessee Titans. So these things start playing into, the roles at which you play, and playing the South means you play Jacksonville as well. Those are all winnable football games. And so sometimes it's just the way the rotation works with who you play, and that plays a big portion into this. All 4 of those games are winnable. The Houston Texans has got to be one of the toughest, of the season, but I think it's kind of playing out there. Now, one of the things we always look at when it comes to the 49ers schedule, and I got to give, credit to chat. They were really good on this yesterday. In fact, Brad came through with this yesterday. was the San Francisco 49ers play 0 teams coming off a bye week. And I knew there was some confusion. People were coming on and saying actually the Rams are coming off a bye, but that's not the case. The Rams are playing New Orleans coming off a bye. So 49ers play no teams coming off a bye. So the rest advantages for teams is usually, one day, or maybe they're coming off a Thursday night football game. So they got a little bit of an extra time over the 49ers, but none of these full weeks where the 49ers went 1-3 last year playing teams that came off bye week. So that is a huge portion of the 49ers schedule is going to be playing teams that are on similar rest. This is a far cry from what the 49ers have had happen over the last 2 or 3 seasons where they have been just absolutely hit with teams coming off buys. Last year was the worst. Teams with a huge rest advantage, and they've made it very difficult for the 49ers to be able to compete because that's just tough when you're lining up against some of the best teams, and that's what it was. It was teams like Kansas City coming off a bye. It was teams like the Los Angeles Rams coming off a bye. Those are tough wins you have to come by. So the fact that it's going to be even up, and we talked about this yesterday, with the live stream and the schedule, the 49ers start the season, the first 4 games, there's no primetime games. It's just boom, boom, boom. It's Sunday football games. And that's going to help the 49ers get into a real rhythm. They don't play a primetime game until week 5 against the Rams. And then even after that, they go right back to Sunday games. And so they get a real rhythm for a long time. And I think that's going to be huge for the 49ers during this season where most of their primetime games, they have 2 of them that come after the bye week. So this is a schedule that's very favorable for the San Francisco 49ers, for a few reasons. They are going to have a +9 day on rest advantage. So last year, it was like -30. This year, it's +9. A crazy difference between last year's schedule and this year's schedule and how difficult it is. Opponents, it's easier this year. Rest advantage, it's in the 49ers' favor. That is just a far cry from what we've seen since 2022, especially. So the 49ers have got to feel more comfortable with this schedule, even with there's some quirks we're going to talk about that are definitely a little bit more interesting that could have some negative effects on the 49ers. But right now, lots of positive effects. And how about this? And this is from Guy Haberman, so I got to give Guy some real credit for this. The 49ers finished with 8 of the final 10 opponents coming off road games. So this is a situation where these teams, they're going to be moving too, whether they're coming to Santa Clara or they're going to be at home. They are coming back. So why does that matter? Well, it comes into play because of travel days. When teams can sit home, it's a little bit easier. When you have to travel at night, it sets everything back a little bit. Your preparation, it just takes a little bit more time. That's what we were talking about last night on the live stream. Brad was bringing up the fact that the 49ers have a rest deficiency when playing the Chicago Bears because the 49ers play Monday night against the Indianapolis Colts the week before. So Chicago comes in on full rest, and the 49ers are coming in with a 6-day rest. And yes, that's a deficiency. Now, what the NFL did to offset that, which is nice to see, first off, the 49ers are playing Chicago on Sunday night, so it moves it back a little bit. But second of all, Chicago is traveling to San Francisco. So they do have a travel day, so it kind of evens things out. Is it exactly right? No. But it's a lot closer than what we've seen in the past, where you would get that type of situation. You would get a team coming off the bye and the 49ers playing on Monday night, giving the other team a huge advantage over the 49ers. So it's getting a little bit closer, and the fact that teams are going to have to travel coming off the road before they play San Francisco, whether it's at home or in Santa Clara, that is going to be huge. And, having that +9 rest differential over their opponents, that's 3rd best in the NFL this year. So the 49ers are definitely put in a better situation, easier schedule, the plus rest differential. Those things are definitely categories that are going the 49ers' way that should help them be able to have a positive win-loss record. Because ultimately, that's what you're hoping this thing is going to work into. And, when you look at the 49ers schedule and you really don't find a huge stretch that's extremely difficult, there's one stretch that is the most difficult, a 4-game stretch when they play the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football. Then they're at Tampa Bay. Those are both road games. Those are both tough games. Those are both playoff teams. Then they play at home versus Atlanta, which the Atlanta Falcons were not a team that made the playoffs last year. They were on the brink in a interesting NFC South. That one kind of can go either way. Any of those teams can win it. Now, we do believe Atlanta has improved a lot. They went out and they added speed off the edge and pass rush to help Raheem Morris's defense, going out and getting Jalen Walker, getting Pierce. So they've added some guys there. They've added some other players as well. They're going to be a little bit more interesting. But I think of the three that we just talked about, that's the easiest one. And then at Houston, that stretch right there is the most difficult stretch. That is so much different than last year when the 49ers had a stretch that included Green Bay and Buffalo, and both of those games were in the cold out there, in their home. This is just a different thing. Number one, Los Angeles is almost like a home game when the 49ers go to SoFi. Puka Nacua talked about that earlier in the year. He was so shocked because there's so much red in that lower bowl as the 49ers just completely take over SoFi Stadium. And for whatever reason, the 49ers have played really well against Tampa Bay over the last several years. Whether it was in Tampa, 49ers were able to defeat them there, or playing them at Levi Stadium. Brock Purdy, his first start as a 49er was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he got absolutely mollywopped early, and then he handled business and beat Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucs. So the 49ers don't have a stretch that is murderer's row like we've seen in the past, especially last year where there was a huge stretch where it was extremely difficult going against everyone who was a playoff team. So I think that there's some things like that work out for them as well. Now, the 49ers play 5 primetime games, which a lot of people were surprised to hear. And we talked about it that earlier in the day yesterday, the report was the 49ers were going to play 4, which seemed like it would be a legitimate conversation point because the 49ers had 6-11 last year. Not exactly the best record, and a lot of times you don't get rewarded for that. You miss primetime games. But what it does, by showing the 49ers have 5 primetime games, it illustrates that the league and the teams, the league and the decision makers when it comes to the schedule and the networks, they believe that the 49ers are going to be good this year. They believe last year was an anomaly and this team is going to bounce back because they do not want to have duds on these primetime games. Amazon, NBC, ESPN, they're paying too much money for the rights to these games to have these games be duds. And some of the opponents the 49ers are playing in these primetime games aren't exactly phenomenal. So it's not like the 49ers, are piggybacked on someone else. They're not playing Kansas City or Green Bay, it's not like the 49ers were the bad team. The 49ers are the good team in a lot of these situations in those primetime games. And the primetime matchups, the 49ers, of course, have, it seems like yearly, the divisional matchup against the Los Angeles Rams, whether it's in Santa Clara or down at Levi South, is usually a primetime game. That is a Thursday night football game. So they play the Rams in primetime. Atlanta, this is what I'm talking about. Atlanta, not a playoff team last year. Maybe they think with Michael Penix Jr. they're going to be better. That's a Sunday night game. The 49ers are carrying, they're the big dog in that matchup. Versus the Carolina Panthers, that one for sure, the 49ers are the big dog. What are you getting out of Bryce Love? What are you getting out of the Carolina Panthers? I think there's more question marks than anything there. Then you look and they've got the Monday Night Football game versus the Indianapolis Colts. Are the Colts the team? They don't have a marquee quarterback. Richardson hasn't been great. Daniel Jones. No, it's the 49ers. The 49ers are the selling point for the Indianapolis Colts game. And so they're the big dog there. Now, when it comes to Chicago, I got to give them credit. They've got the talent with Caleb Williams. They redid that offense. They've got talent at, wide receiver with Roma Dunze and more. There's a lot of marquee names there. I think that one carries weight. Now, with that being said, there is a chance that the 49ers don't play some of these primetime games. They can be flexed. And I think that probably, we know the Rams one's not going to be flex. We don't have to worry about that. Those two teams, no matter what their record, they're going to put them on there. It's going to be phenomenal. Plus, it's week 5, way too early. I think Atlanta is also too early in week 7 to be flexed. I think Atlanta will be in the mix for the NFC South early on in this season. And so that game will be way too early for NBC, to move out and get another game. So I don't think that one does. But when you get to week 12, right before Thanksgiving, and the Carolina Panthers are coming to Santa Clara for a 5:15 Monday Night Football game, if Carolina doesn't hold their water, if they are not at least a decent football team, this one has a really good chance to be flexed. So we're talking about the 49ers having 5 primetime games, but there's a real chance that doesn't hold the entire season because of some of the opponents the 49ers are playing. It's obvious that the primetime games were motivated heavily by the 49ers. And I said this last night as well. The 49ers are the team that puts butts in the seats. Fans travel like crazy. People watch. The most watched games in the NFL during the regular season and in primetime usually have the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers in them. And if they play each other, it's going to be one of the biggest games of the year. This is just what happens. The 49ers fan base is worldwide. It's one of the best fan bases in the entire world when it comes to buying tickets, showing up at games, watching games, buying merchandise. You don't have to take my word for it. Look it up. That's just how the 49ers roll. So Carolina Panthers, that one could be flexed. There's a chance the Indianapolis Colts could be flexed too right before Christmas if that one, Colts aren't in the mix there. And that's going to come down to the quarterback situation. So that's going to be something that's interesting there is figuring out what happens. And, you just see the way that the Colts played last year, and they have some turnover on defense. They did bring Charvarius Ward in. They have Sam Womack. They have some former 49ers with DeForest Buckner as well. So that'll be an interesting matchup. But, I think that there's a lot of teams the 49ers are going to be playing that have quarterback concerns this year. You look at Indianapolis, they are going to have a quarterback decision to make there. You look at Tennessee, it's going to be Cam Ward, but who's he going to be? Cleveland, they got 4 guys they have to decide who's going to be quarterback there. New York, is it going to be Russell Wilson? Probably, but they've got a decision to make at quarterback. And you look at New Orleans, now it's going to be Spencer Rattler or whoever. You've got 5 teams that have real question marks when it comes to quarterback on the 49ers schedule as well, which is huge. So 5 primetime games is huge, and we'll see if all those hold and if the 49ers get to play all of them. The one thing to remember, there's no holiday games this year. We had a couple years ago, 2023, the 49ers played, Thanksgiving, they played Christmas. It was just lots of holiday games for the 49ers. Now it's not going to happen. So, there are people that really enjoy going to games on holidays, and so I feel bad for you. I love not having 49ers play on holidays. I prefer for them to play, around holidays, so I enjoy holidays, and then, football separate gives me an extra day to kind of enjoy, but, no holiday games this season. The 49ers have five early start times in 2025. So this was something else that I noticed right away. Last year, the 49ers had 2. So it is a big difference. So they didn't get hit when it came to days and rest differential, but they did get hit with time. And starting at 10 a.m. is something that a lot of West Coast teams have really struggled at in the past. Now, having 5 early start times, that's the most the 49ers have had since 2017, Kyle Shanahan's first year in Santa Clara. So this has been something the 49ers have been able to navigate around. Now, some of that could be the way the schedule plays out. They like the 49ers playing afternoon because Fox, CBS, they like those. They want the 49er fans watching, so that's always a key. But also, you just got to make sure that, it's with the East Coast trips. Where's it going to be? That a lot of times determines what those 10 a.m. start times are going to look like. But how about this? The 49ers under Kyle Shanahan, and really this started under Jim Harbaugh, but under Shanahan since 2017, the 49ers are 15-12 under Shanahan in early start times. They are 20-19 in other road games. So they have actually played better on the road in early start times than they have in the late window. So that's something to remember. 15-12, it's not a extreme advantage, but the 49ers have been extremely competitive. So where it was a bad negative before, now it's becoming something that's been neutralized, something that's not as bad. The 49ers have been able to overcome and win. And we've seen the 49ers do some unique things. And we know that they will show up places early or show up places late because they've been determined that it will help your internal time clock and get it so you don't get off track when it comes to getting jet lag and those types of things. 49ers have been really good with that, right? It was just a couple years ago when they were going to play in Mexico City, and the 49ers went and trained in Colorado to get their lung capacity up. They were there for a week in the freezing cold. Then when they got to Mexico City, they literally ran shop. So the 49ers have figured out ways to make sure they have competitive advantage or eliminate what could be a competitive disadvantage. And one of the ways is these 10 a.m. start times. The 49ers have done pretty good under Kyle Shanahan. 15-12. I kind of like that. Now, 49ers do have 6 of their first 9 games on the road. So that's going to be a little bit steep. So in the games that they're on the road of the first 9, they're at Seattle, at New Orleans, at Los Angeles, at Tampa Bay, at Houston, at New York. So they're definitely starting with a lot of those road games, and it's going to be a little bit difficult as they go through the first 9 weeks of the season. They only have 3 home games. The home games are against Arizona, Jacksonville, and Atlanta, which are all winnable games. But early on in this season, the 49ers are going to be road warriors. Now, with that being said, later on in the year, that means they're going to be home more. Now, they do play 9 road games this season compared to 8 home games, with the season being a 17-game schedule. So 1 extra road game this year. So remember that. But they're getting a lot of those road games done in those first 9 weeks. And that means the second half of the season, the 49ers are spending more time at Santa Clara, which could be a huge advantage for the 49ers down the stretch, especially with their bye coming in week 14. And I've heard, differing opinions on the week 14 bye. Some people really love it. Some people really hate it. I think that most people felt comfortable with the 49ers having that bye week around week 9 or 10. That's worked out, pretty well for the 49ers. You play that first half of the season, you have a bye, then you come back refreshed. Now, with that being said, the way that the schedule plays out for the 49ers, they do have a mini bye in week 5. And Kyle Shanahan has talked about this before, that these Thursday games on the front end are very difficult because you play on Sunday and then you turn around and you have to prepare really quickly. Normally you go through a different process, but it speeds up the process completely. And a lot of times you don't put in a different game plan. You just kind of have some things, little elements to the game that are different. And so you change it up a little bit that way. So they're going to play Los Angeles in week 5 on Thursday Night Football. They will have a mini bye there, a 10-day rest period before they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that one is early in the season. Hopefully that helps carry the 49ers the extra 9 weeks that they're going to have to get through this season, so that way they can get to their next bye week. Now, there are advantages to having a week 14 bye week. For one, if you get there, you've been playing really well, and you've stayed primarily healthy, that's going to set you up for the stretch run. And if you are in the mix for a playoff spot or you are in the mix for home field advantage, having that bye week in week 14 could finish the job for the 49ers. Because after the bye, the 49ers play at home versus Tennessee. That is a game that is a must-win, and they should be able to win that. At Indianapolis, at home versus Chicago, at home versus Seattle. That is a 4-game stretch. The 49ers, with a healthy team that's fresh off a bye, could easily go 4-0. So this is a way to close it out. And why it's so significant now that you're hearing different pundits saying the 49ers are going to win 12 to 14 games as they see this schedule kind of come down. And there's a lot of things that can change when it comes to injuries and just how well teams are playing. Sometimes teams with new coaches just figure it out. Look at Jim Harbaugh last year with the Chargers. So things like that happen. But if the 49ers could get the number 1 seed in the playoffs, and if the records that people are predicting are correct, and some of them are predicting low wins, so I've seen 9-8, I've seen all the way to 15-2, I've seen it all. If the 49ers could get home field advantage, they would have such a huge advantage over everyone else, because you would have bye week 14, play 4 games, have another bye week to rest. You're talking about getting healthy and staying healthy, and then playing 2 games to get to the Super Bowl, both of those at home, while then the Super Bowl being at home as well. Now, that's how things work out in a perfect world. So is it going to work out that way? I don't know. But we've seen the 49ers have a quick turnaround before in 2019. Go from 2018, I know a lot of people thought they were going to be good. They weren't playing great. Beginning of that season, Jimmy goes down, changes the whole season. 2019, they come out like gangbusters, go 8-0 to start the season. One of the things about that, they were playing a easier schedule. So that's something to remember and take into consideration when, this roster's, this schedule comes out and this roster has been put together. Now, the 49ers do have a lot of young players that are going to have to develop, and they're going to have to get a feel for, the season. And I think that the schedule overall kind of helped the 49ers with that, with the young players. Seattle, that's a tough divisional game. But after that, at New Orleans, Arizona, Jacksonville, that will allow the team to kind of get their feet wet. And once you get to that second half push, when you're playing those non-playoff teams, that could be hugely beneficial. Now, one little thing that I wanted to point out that I did kind of come up with that I had seen, and this might mean nothing, just a nice little factoid before we end the episode. The 49ers have reached the Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan in both seasons that they played the Cleveland Browns in the regular season. 2019, 49ers played Cleveland Browns at Levi Stadium. They went to the Super Bowl. In 2023, they traveled to play Schwartz and the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, and they went to the Super Bowl. One of those games they won in 2019. In 2023, they lost. Win and loss didn't matter. But if they played the Cleveland Browns, they went to the Super Bowl. I'm going to try to hold on to that. You got the Eddie DeBartolo, Cleveland, Ohio thing. I'm just going to hold on to that. I'm going to try to will that into existence. The 49ers playing Cleveland means they're going to the Super Bowl, because I think if the 49ers get to the Super Bowl at home, massive advantage, right? And I know that's a long ways away. And I haven't even figured out, what I'm going to do as far as predicting these games. I still have to continue to look at the schedule. But here were some things that, stuck out for me, some of the biggest takeaways from the 49ers schedule. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.